So our next speaker is Paul Duhacek. He is a software release specialist at one of our top sponsors, Rockwell Automation. The objectives for this one is determining a speech topic and specific purpose, organization to beginning, body, and conclusion, and controlling nervousness and striving not to use notes. So we will now put up your slideshow.
All right. Just want to say thank you for this opportunity to speak to you today. It's been an excellent presentation so far, and I hope I can continue on with the process of being successful. All right, next slide, please. As you just read, what we're going to be talking about is how to select a speech topic, how to organize your speech in the manner that best achieves those purposes, and ensuring that you have a beginning, a body, and a conclusion to reinforce your purpose, and then how to talk with conviction, sincerity, and control your nervousness, and strive not to use notes. Next slide. Selecting your speech topic is general specific purpose. There's four types of talks or speeches. It's to inform, persuade, entertain, and inspire. To inform is like giving a lecture or briefing or demonstration or teaching of a new skill. It's a teaching model, and it's to basically inform of those information. Persuade, it's like a campaign sell. You're trying to sell something. It's trying to get the audience to convince them of your point of view. To entertain, it's to strive to make enjoyment and entertain the audience. It's like a poet, a comic, or a storyteller. And then to inspire, that's to inspire someone to draw out their emotions, to inspire them to do something to their next abilities or higher potential. It's like a commencement speech. It's like Dr. Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream speech, or President Kennedy with, we will go to the moon in the next decade. Those are inspiring speeches. So when you're trying to come up with a topic to talk about, you should try to pick from one of these four. And then you would go, well, can you pick one of the two? The thing is, when you do that, it's but when you're doing information, you don't need to entertain the audience. You're trying to develop the skills and trying to teach them something, and they're not trying to persuade them. So it's better to focus on one of these four topics than to just try to mix and match and not make 50% of one and 50% another. Make it 100% to inform the audience or persuade the audience or entertain them or inspire. Next slide, please. Now, to organize your speech in a manner that best achieves those purposes, you want to get the audience point of view. So you want to know what type of audience you're talking to. So if you're talking to a kindergarten class, 8th grade class, senior class, or college graduates, or doctorates, excuse me, you want to understand that, make a nice viewpoint when you're starting out your talk. So just to say, instead of saying it just to inform you, I could say, after hearing my presentation, you'll be able to achieve the best speech possible. Then make sure that you have a specific reason of your topic, and make it just like when you're doing your SMART goals, that it's retainable and reasonable, not something that's out of the ballpark or trying to save the world. So after hearing my speech, the audience will be able to repair a bicycle. That's not realistic. So like if you're going to say, here's the robotic, here's my Lego robotic, and by the end of this presentation in 20 minutes, we're going to be able to build a robotic and write code. That's not realistic. But after hearing my speech, you'll be able to do two simple maintenance tasks like bicycle safety, putting air in the tire and greasing the chain. So by the end of this 20-minute lecture, you'll be able to turn on the machine and do a little test, self-test. Having a specific purpose and clear and conscious speech, making sure that you write it down, that you use verbs, because verbs have action and your speech has actions. And you want people to understand that you're passionate, and using verbs in your action words are very important. Then word your statement that, like the previous talk, she said, if there's anything I want you to remember in this slide, is that you can test the audience that you have achieved your specific purpose. Next slide, please. Then as you notice that everyone had bullet points or specific topics. So in your body of your speech, I say no more than 5 bullet points or 5 parts of your speech that you're going to form that you promised and give information on. Make sure that it's clear to the audience, and we as an audience want to know what you're talking about. So be prepared that you can answer questions, be prepared that you have material that's in your head that you can answer and present to the audience. Your conclusion is the same thing, that you should have one simple sentence that everyone would be able to be tested, that they could answer what you were trying to teach your audience. Next slide, please. Okay. Talking with conviction and controlling your nerves and talking with sincerity. As you notice, I started reading real fast and talking real fast, and then as I try to go down, because as you get into your talk or your speech, you probably get your nerves down and you can relax. Ice hockey and NASCAR. People attend those events. People want to go to ice hockey because they always go, oh, I can't wait to see the fights. I can't wait to watch some guy hit the plexiglass. And then NASCAR, people go to a NASCAR race and, oh, I wonder how many cars we're going to pile up and how many cars are going to crash. But I want you to understand that when you're giving a speech and you're presenting whatever you're presenting, people are coming there because they want to hear what you have to say. And that's where we get into this thing what's called a SME. And in the workforce, we call it a SME, and it's called a subject matter expert. We're counting on you to be an expert in whatever you're talking on, that you're going to be knowledgeable and aware and confident enough to present your ideas and your thoughts. So as you would talk, eventually your nerves would go away. But you need to be enthusiastic about your subject and say what you believe and have a passion. I do Toastmasters. I've been an Army sergeant, and I've done teaching and learning. I teach at work. I've done training sessions. I've also done Boy Scouts of America. So I'm pretty passionate about teaching how to do speeches. So if the audience is interested, because they're interested in you, and if you're confident, enthusiastic, sincere, and convincing, you have more credibility. So if I was sitting here lounged and going, well, I hope I understand that, they're not going to pay attention. So using your nervous energy, because if you're nervous and not confident, then you need to work more on rehearsing and practicing your speech. So pinpoint your topic, like we talked about the 4 categories of picking a speech. Plan out what you're going to talk about. Plan out where you're going to be, who, what, when, and wheres. Prepare your speech. Come up with your body points, your conclusion, and your viewpoint. Then practice, practice, and practice, and then do a performance like I'm doing right now. Rehearse your speech that I'm so comfortable with, that you're so comfortable with it, that you no longer need to be nervous. Next slide, please. As I said, strive to love using notes. Practice, practice, practice. I have here index cards when I've given presentations. You can see that. So I stand here like this, and I can say, the mission statement: we help manufacturers who produce products cleaner and safer, more energy efficient operations. Technology helps them ensure their products are reliable, affordable, and available on demand. So if I forgot what I was going to say, I can have this available to read. So you can use notes and just usually flip it, and you can use that. But I try not to use notes. But if I do have a backup plan in case I get brain lock or stutter. What you want to do is definitely have eyes on the audience. You want to have eyes on the audience, and that's what I've been trying to do, is making sure I'm not so much reading and so much looking down, or doing like when people are giving power presentations and it's behind you and it's a rubber neck, that you kind of keep your eyes on the audience, that if you're looking at them, they're looking at you, and everyone's paying attention. Next slide, please. Thank you. Now I'm going to demonstrate or give you some tools and resources to go apply these skills. Next slide, please. Thank you. Know the room. Know how big the room is. Know how much you're going to have to project, or how small you're going to have to project. Be on time. It's very important to be on time. We had, for the speakers, we had the meeting started at 6:30. We were asked to be here at 6:15. I was here at 6:18. Not that I was 2 minutes late, but I knew that I had to be on time. Stand at the lecture and speak into a microphone. You can see this, I hope. This is called a lectern, not a podium. Where I stand on my feet, and behind this lectern is a podium. But with this, you put your materials and you're reading on, it's called a lector. So when people will go, there's the lector, that's where you're speaking from. So a little vocabulary lesson for you. Walk where you're going to be seated to the lector. That way you don't trip over any wires, and if there's tables, you know how to walk around it and you can map yourself out. That way when you're introduced, you know where to go. Know the audience. In this 15 minutes that we had to introduce, we were talking, we had a couple questions, we were getting to know one another, because it is a lot easier to know friends and talk to friends than it is to talk to strangers. Know your material, practice your speech, practice, practice, practice. And not only when you're practicing your speech, it's not so much doing this, is when you got your notes and just reading it in your head and silently. That doesn't help you with your timing, and you need to enunciate your words. That way, if you are going to have a problem with enunciating, that's what the practice comes from. And then relax. When you're waiting to be talked to, like I was sitting in my chair and just thinking about, okay, here's what I got to do, here's what I'm going. And then I was breathing, and that helped me do this. Just like with football players, next slide, please. Just like with football players, they try to do athletes, they have visualized what they're going to do. So visualize giving your speech. Imagine yourself confidently walking up to the lecture as the audience applauds. Imagine yourself speaking your voice clear and assured. Picture your audience applauding after you're finished and after you return to your seat. As I was sitting here waiting for the previous presentation, I was pondering my presentation, and then I was visualizing myself that when I'm done, if I think I did a successful job, I get a bowl of ice cream. If I think that I did a really good job, I get to put sprinkles on it. But I visualize that there's something at the end that I'm rewarding myself. So visualize yourself as successful, and you'll be successful. As you always say, think successful, practice successful, be successful. Realize people want you to succeed. Nobody wants to come to watch you speak and watch you crash. Nobody wants to watch the NASCAR and hockey and make you fail. Everyone wants you to be the most interesting, informative, stimulating, entertaining person there. And they want you to succeed. Don't apologize. Because if you see my last bullet, it says they want you to succeed. It's missing the two. A lot of people will go, oh, I forgot to put the two when I made the edit. That's fine. Now they understand that you made a mistake, and now they're focused on the mistake instead of the material you're teaching. So instead of don't apologize and don't come up with excuses and don't go, oh, I'm sorry about that. Don't apologize. It's not that you have an ego problem or a big-headed thing. It's that if they don't even know, then don't tell them. They won't even know. So never let them see you sweat, because they don't even know that you made a mistake. Maybe some people noticed that the two was missing from that bullet point. Maybe some people didn't. But now I pointed it out. Now they're looking at my whole presentation, looking for any other punctuations and spelling mistakes instead of listening to what I was presenting and what materials I had to share. Concentrate on the message, not the medium. It's not about you and how you feel about your nerves. It's about who you're teaching and what you're trying to present. It's about your presentation and about your audience. And putting those needs before your own needs will help you be a better focused speech maker and creator. And this concludes my presentation. If you have any questions or comments, I'd like to hear them. Thank you for your time. Next slide, please. Thank you.
Okay, so if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen, and we will wait a second for them to come in. Okay, so one question is, how has this skill been useful in your life in and outside of your workplace?
Outside of my workplace. Well, you have to be able to talk confidently and properly to potential spouses or significant others. That you need to be able to talk and not just do the thing in the thumbs and talk to one another. You're going to have to be able to enunciate and talk intelligently if you plan on having a relationship with a significant other. That's helpful. Outside also too is you're going to have to go for a job interview, and they're going to ask you questions, and you're going to have to be able to sit there confidently and be able to enunciate and be able to have a conversation. There may be times that I'm just going to even at work. All of a sudden, a client's in the town, and then all of a sudden, this happened. There was a major snowstorm. I actually drove into work because I was the closest one. I actually did do a 360 on the highway. and I made it into the clock tower and made it into me, and then I have to present all the material. I have to host. I can't go, yeah, that's what he's supposed to be doing or she's supposed to be doing. So you have to rely on those skills to be able to be confident and project yourself and be sincere and secure in yourself that you have these skills to be able to talk. So just like with your robotics, you know, kids are going to come up to you and go like, "Hey, what's robotics about?" And you're going to go, that's someone else's job. Go talk to her. Go talk to him. I mean, that's why I emphasize the point where public speaking is, yeah, it's scary and you don't want to do it and you don't want to make a mistake. But that's why I said about the point, no one even knows if you made a mistake. Even if you baffled and stuff and just stuttered, at least you got something out. But you have to be able to communicate, just like with the previous presentation. You have to be able to communicate whatever your thoughts, and negative or positive. You have to be able to communicate that, and that's what I think you get out of that. Thank you.
Alrighty, thank you very much for presenting.